All right, welcome back, guys. We are live. Jordan here, Justin, Ryan. We are off the monorails. Thank you for joining us exclusively for our Patreon members first with exclusive access to this episode. We appreciate the support. To learn more, to get future access to other perks, including the initial releases of these live streams, you can go to offthemonorails.com and learn more about our Patreon and all the member tiers available and all the perks that go along with it. So go check us out, offthemonorails.com, and learn more about that and everything else we have going on. Fellas, it's good to be back. Good to be talking some Ahsoka again,
Oh,
and some
yes.
things have
Yes,
happened
sir.
since we last talked.
Yeah, quite a few things. We're all up to speed on the same page at this
Mhm.
point together. And man, some pieces to the puzzle really came together for me, especially being the noob of the group, I guess. Um, there was a lot of origin story flashbacks that happened and some storytelling. So that helped connect some dots for me to figure out, where these people come from and what
Yeah.
their correlation is.
Yeah, and to recap the audience too, if you haven't gone and watched our previous session, session 1, where we recap the first 2 parts of the new Ahsoka series on Disney Plus, then you can definitely go back and watch that. But at that time, at that junction, we had all completed the first couple episodes, but then we were kind of splintered off into different sections of where we were
Yeah.
currently standing. So now, current date, we are all now caught up to part 6, which is live. It just happened premiere this past Tuesday, and yeah, there's a lot to discuss. So with that, we'll kick it off, and we'll just go in chronological order and start with part 3. Time to Fly is the name of the episode, and guys, what did you think here? We left off episode 2 knowing that something dirty was going on in the shipyards, and we got a tracker on the ship, and we knew that they were going to be chasing after this. What did you think in episode 3?
Man, it was a big mystery at first, like you said, they got to Corellia, and that's where um some loyalists to the Empire, they really showed their true colors.
Mm-hmm.
And shouting long live the Empire and pretty much going full kamikaze. Um yeah, Chopper and Syndulla, they get a tracker on one of the final hyperspace engines that the Eye of Zion needed in order to achieve hyperspace and get to where Thrawn is. Uh, Man, it was interesting because they couldn't quite pinpoint exactly where it was going. They just knew it was very, very, very far away.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
only that, but seeing the trouble that Syndulla went through to get permission from the Senate,
She didn't
basically,
need permission. She just
to
went
go.
rogue.
You
She
know,
assembled her own squad.
well, just to see the trouble that she went through, like to let them know, this is such a big deal, and they
Yeah.
didn't want to really back her.
yeah,
That was kind of telling, and you know, politics, gonna politic and all. But
yeah, yeah. Well, it just goes to show you too, right? Like it's always they never they you know how it's going to work like that, right? Like that they're not going to get the support. It's just more
Hmm.
it's more dramatic that
more
way,
Typical
right?
hubris.
government.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think a big piece of this episode, right, is we know that Ahsoka, they're going to go look for this, right? They're going to go look for this ship that they've got the tracker on. I think you started having more character development occur in this episode that was very important from
Yep.
Sabine's perspective,
Oh yeah.
and her trying to take that Jedi apprenticeship back to um, you know sh- to start her training again per se,
Yeah.
with Hu Yang on the ship and just trying to gain control back. And it's this is going to be one of those themes as you've seen it
Revolving
play out a
themes.
little bit, right? You've seen it play out a little bit in the first couple episodes, and then it keeps happening, right? She keeps testing her abilities and her will of the Force, and so because it's repeated so much now, I'm using it as a little foreshadowing where there's going to be that payoff, right? I just feel that somewhere along the line in these last 2 episodes of this first season, there's going to be a payoff with her using the Force. There has to be.
Well, from my perspective, not knowing really, jack shit about Ahsoka, what I noticed was that she was very reluctant to basically bring Sabine back on as an apprentice. And even though Sabine wanted to, like, Ahsoka almost seemed a little jaded by their past, which I, at that point, seeing episode 3, I didn't know much of. But Hu Yang was really the voice of reason between the two of them. And without his intervention, it probably would have never happened. And, early into Sabine doing some, pretty much intermediate Jedi retraining, with being blindfolded and fighting Ahsoka and, like, tapping her shoulder and kind of getting her senses about her. And she told her, your frustration and your anger are going to get the best of you in this training.
Yeah.
And so it was a very, very big growth moment, like you said, Jordan.
And where have we seen that specific thing play out before?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they're on the ship, they're training, and then they arrive into the Denab system where Cetos is located, and literally met by Shin Hati, Marok, and a whole squadron, right? To basically fight them, and they get in a dogfight, and so they go and hide. They're able to sail through. We get to see the whales for the first time.
Yep.
And use some evasive maneuvers and hide in the Red Forest.
Yeah.
Which I love the colors. I love everything they've done with this planet, the way it feels, the way it looks. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah. And they nestle into a spot in the woods to hide out from Shin Hati and Marok, and they eventually lose them, but they know they're somewhere in the Red Forest. Like but it's so vast, they don't know exactly where. But this is where they take a moment to make repairs to their ship, and Hu Yang is, outside trying to resolder stuff together, whatever the hell he was doing. And they try to make work in the meantime of doing some exploring. But little do they know they were being watched pretty much the entire time.
Yeah. Well, Balin Skull is definitely. I mean, he's given the mandate to go find them. So, that's where they're going to go. And so that brings us basically our part 4, and this is where it really starts to get fun. Part 4 is called Fallen Jedi. For very good reasons. Justin, you want to give us a little recap of what happened?
So Sabine ended up getting captured after she got defeated by Shin Hati. As Ryan foreshadowed, they were exploring, and when they got ambushed, they had fights. And
great fight scenes.
Very good fight scenes. And at one point, Ahsoka and Sabine were both fighting Shin Hati, but then a distraction happened where they had to separate. And Sabine told Ahsoka, "Go ahead, I've got this," which probably surprised Ahsoka, surprised the audience. That she felt confident enough that she could take Shin Hati in that instance, and that was a fantastic scene that played out. Unfortunately, Shin got the best of her, but Ahsoka had to go tend to Balin, go check and get the map, and that's where she ran into Balin.
Yeah, well, and here, guys, we anticipated something coming out of this character, but Marok, who Ahsoka gets in a fight with, lightsaber duel with, she defeats him. He like evaporates into smoke, basically.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe that he's associated with something else that's in a later episode. But yeah, I'm like, okay, I thought this was going to be some big mystery that we get gets unveiled and all this, and there was a bunch of theories out there and nothing. He just like, okay, well, that was not very, that was very anticlimactic, so I felt like we got robbed there a little bit, but maybe we'll find out more in the later episode. Maybe.
Yeah. This was the point with the conclusion of Balin and Ahsoka's fight, where, of course, she's thrown from the cliff and pretty much goes into a state of purgatory, into the afterlife. And this is, pretty much the cliffhanger of the rest of the episode. She actually goes into this purgatory stage and runs into Anakin. And it's the Anakin of the time where she was his Padawan, so he hadn't aged or anything like that, and so it's prior to him, before he got any of his other future endeavors. But pretty much he told her that she had to fight him and survive to live, or
he
remain
was
in
trying
the
to get her
afterlife.
to prove that she wanted to live.
Yeah.
And he you quote unquote say he's shapeshifted because he had Jedi Anakin that she saw and fought, and he taught her from that perspective. But then he also flipped to the dark side. Like, he could control the sides he was on. If you watched, his eyes would turn yellow when he flipped to the dark side.
Yeah.
And he was able to control that, something he couldn't do during his lifetime. But now, as a Force ghost Anakin, in the world between worlds, which is what this place is called, he's able to display that he can control his anger, and was able to teach a very valuable lesson to Ahsoka and have her show that she really wants the willpower to live and to see this thing through.
Yeah,
that was the teaching point.
Well, and see, like in this same scene, in the midst of their battle, their lightsaber fight, she has a flashback to the Clone Wars and running into battle with Anakin, and
you see young Ahsoka,
as a child,
Padawan,
and her almost questioning the purpose of the war.
Yep.
Yeah. And this put a lot of things together for me. At least it gives me some backstory on her, and it makes sense of why she is the way she is towards Sabine.
Yep.
So this was where my little brain started finally working, and some gears started turning and meshing together. So once I got through this episode, I was chewing at getting episode 5 that upcoming Tuesday.
Yeah, and that's what the look backs. This was in my opinion, this episode 5 was a love letter from Dave Filoni to Star Wars fans.
100%.
Right? It was a love letter to the past, and it was just, I think, so well done. So well done.
Incredibly done.
How it brought you right back into the Clone Wars. The way that it jumped around, it was all over the place, but in the best of ways, if that makes sense. And
you wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Seriously.
No. It was just really, really good. And as we in this episode, we get General Syndulla over to the planet. She's assembled her own mini squad to come and try to rescue them, essentially. And she brings her son with her this go around. And here's our first introduction in this series to Jason, her son, who he's displaying some gifts.
Yeah,
passed down from daddy.
he's got some supernatural powers, some intuition, and he hears and sees things that people don't hear and see themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's a precursor to something we're gonna. It's like an episode of Maury. We're gonna find out who the daddy is.
So as I said in the last discussion on Ahsoka, I started watching Star Wars Rebels and trying to get caught up on stuff. I am currently through midway through season 2, and boy, is there a plethora of stuff there. I highly recommend watching that series. 20-minute episodes, easy consumption. But Caden is Syndulla's husband, and that is the father of Jason. And Caden is a Jedi, and that explains where Jason gets his gifts. But seeing Jason have that effect and be that young in that instance, like he hasn't really been formally trained, but for him to have like that level of being able to interact with the Force and find where Ahsoka was, that's mind blowing. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how and if they mix that and make it part of something more going forward.
It's going to have to be.
Yeah.
For them to display him and his gifts, it's going to come into play later on.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah. We're also introduced to the witches in this episode. As they are successful, they get the map and they get the location and they travel to the destination where they believe Thrawn is. And so they arrive and they are met by 3 witches. And I think there's some other things happening here, guys. I think there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle unfolding. I think Marok could have been a figure of their creation. Hence the smoke vanishing.
The dark magic.
Yes. And so to reach this destination where Sabine has been brought by Balin's skull to this planet with them, basically under capture, and we know Ahsoka is going to go after them. They figure out they can use the whales to travel to the destination through their migration pattern.
Yeah, because this planet is the end of the Star Whales migration path where they go to die. Like the rings of this planet are actually a boneyard of Star Whale carcasses. It's the production value of them getting to that planet and going through those orbiting rings of whale carcasses. That was pretty neat.
Yes. So I want to make sure we'll get back to what unfolds there and what's happening. But I do want to touch on something since you mentioned it, Ryan. The traveling portion of them getting, going through and using the whales, right? They're in the ship, and it's an incredible scene as the episode opens. Episode 6 opens, and you have Ahsoka and you have Yang just sitting in the seats, in the pilot seats of the ship, just sitting there in the whale's mouth, basically, and they get into conversation about stories and how important the stories are, and the stories that they've been told or shared, that they've lived. And Hu Yang starts his story, and they, and I think this is the first time I think a character has ever said these words in any type of screening. But he said it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
caught that.
it was a great moment because this is also related back to a quote that Balin Skull, when he was talking to Shin Hati, I think it was in episode 5, if I'm not mistaken, where he talks to her, and he's talking to her through about the place that they're traveling to is the place of folk tales, the place of lore. It's
Yeah.
the place of stories that were told and passed down when they were kids. So it's like all this interwoven of this greater story that's unfolding in front of us. And I think again, this is part where this love letter is starting to unravel a little bit from Dave Filoni to fans, where it's like, yes, these are all stories, right? These are all
Yeah.
stories in a galaxy, far, far away. And it's just, I think it's an incredible way to tell this story, right?
Yeah.
Through those eyes. Yeah, it was really cool. It's a really, really cool moment. And to have the original actor who did the original voice for Hu Yang in the series, now doing it in the live series, and to say that and have that moment was really cool.
Yeah. And even Balin, when he was explaining to Shin Hati about the folk tales and the stories of this planet, that he witnessed the rise and fall of that planet as a child.
Yep.
And being able to be there in person and kind of see the path of destruction that was left afterward, he almost seemed a little emotional and sentimental about it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a little more insight to him too, of is his former Jedi self,
Yeah,
going to take over,
yeah.
right? Like he's a mercenary, but he was a Jedi, right? Like he was trained to be a Jedi.
When they got to that planet, Morgan was under the assumption that they escaped Ahsoka, and he had to remind her, they're Jedi, they're coming.
Yeah.
Like, don't write them off. They're going to get here. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yes.
So I do want to get into this because I don't know if you guys know enough of the Lord to catch what was said and what's potentially to come. Because when Morgan Elsbeth stated that planet that they were heading to, where they believe Thrawn is to be found, was the ancient homeworld of her people, the Dathomiri.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know who is also Dathomiri?
Oh, no! Please tell us.
That'll be Darth Maul.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Those people may potentially be involved in this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And potentially Darth Maul, because there's rumors that he survived that fall when he got split in half. Imagine seeing
a twist.
Darth Maul back in.
Could be a twist. Yeah. So let's not bury the lead. We do get to meet. Finally, we get to meet in this big ship that comes over, and we're greeted by Thrawn. Finally, and
Papa Smurf himself.
Yes. And I don't know about the characterization of him, the actor who's playing Thrawn, if it really gives that sense of like dominance. I think he has the attitude, right? I just don't feel like he's like super dominant nature like he was in the series.
Yeah, I almost sense like a mixture of power trip and insecurity from this Thrawn.
Well, I mean, he's definitely got the smarts and the like cunningness about him. It feels like, but I don't feel scared of him yet.
I think that's to come because he's going to use Balin's skull and Shin Hati as an example. When they got sent off, and he basically
he said
Morgan
he
Elsbeth,
left him for dead, basically, right?
We'll leave him if we got to.
Yeah.
And he said it as such a normal conversation.
Yeah.
That's the tone that he's gonna set.
Yeah.
But he's gonna be very cutthroat.
Well, and he was very quick to call Balin out for being a former Jedi. Yep. Because Morgan labeled him as, him and Shin, they're mercenaries. And he goes, well, he's a former Jedi.
Yep.
But basically writing him off instantly, which made sending them after Sabine even that much easier and just leaving them for dead.
Yeah. Real quick too, when we first see Thrawn, first meet him, and he's got all these troops with him. Did you notice the ribbon around all the troops? The red ribbon?
Yeah.
I think the especially because he's asked for additional, some dark magic again from the witches. I think that his troopers are dead. I think they're all undead, and that ribbon, that red ribbon, is basically tying them together.
It's funny you say that because the Night Sisters,
yes,
or I think that's what they're called.
Yes, the witches. That yeah.
I know I'm saying something kind of fast forward at the end of the episode, but they deal with dark magic and bringing, like, people back to life as quote unquote ghostly, and like they're already dead. You can't kill the dead.
Yep.
To fight, and there's something to that, Jordan.
Yeah.
Your presumption.
Well, and think about this too. I think it's in the very same manner that how Kylo Ren's mask. Remember, it's held together, it's woven together, back together with this, this almost same type of fashion. I think it's like there's that Japanese art of like mending things, broken things with gold.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very that, Kylo Ren's mask is done in the same way, in the same manner, right? It's in that same, it carries that same philosophy. And I think this could be that just a little bit of a twist on it to kind of pay a forward homage to that. But with that red ribbon woven through them all. It was just interesting to see. It was like, all right, what is that? That's there for a reason, right? Everything is in here for a reason.
I want to say that's since they're on Dathomir, or they're dealing with Dathomirian people, that they're dealing with like molten rock, molten like lava.
Yeah.
Something strikes me odd with the one trooper that had the gold mask, like an ancient ruin kind of mask, and it was gold plated.
That's a first for me.
There's something to that one, that the face that's behind that mask. I think that's going to be a big takeaway before this season wraps up.
Yeah, I want to look further into that because that's the first for me seeing anything like that on, yet alone a stormtrooper of all things.
Yeah.
But that's wild.
Well, to fill in a little bit of a blank here, like you mentioned from the previous episode, that Sabine was taken as prisoner and put on the Eye of Zion and taken to Dathomir. And this is where they present her to Thrawn. And of course, they've met before, judging on this interaction of, there's a familiar face, as he says when they bring her to him.
Yeah.
And she's basically wanting her exchange of finding Ezra, which is she's under the impression that Ezra is on this planet and has been missing for quite some time. And that was part of Balin's deal with her giving the map over to him. And what's crazy was Balin was going to pretty much just betray her completely. And Shin Hati actually, which was very surprising for me, Shin Hati kind of looked at him like, didn't you have a promise to fulfill to her? And it turns out that, Thrawn ends up just turning her loose and letting her, go out and find Ezra, but there's basically
no leads,
savages waiting on you to kill you, and there's like basically it's her versus the world while trying to find Ezra.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because wasn't that awesome to see her badassery come out and kick the shit out of those folks that tried to kill her?
Yeah,
and she did it very quickly and very intelligently.
Yeah, using all the tools in her arsenal, basically. Yeah,
it was great. Loved it.
Yeah. Well, in a series of events too, she goes and she discovers these little creatures. I'm not sure what they're actually called.
Little hermit crab people.
Yeah. But they lead her back to. They see the symbol. They see the rebellion symbol on her plate there, on the shoulder plate, and take her back to their village. And Justin, out of the tent,
there he was, Ezra Bridger, and the dialogue they had, man. That's Dave Filoni doing Dave Filoni things.
Yeah,
that was done so beautifully, and it definitely was fan servicey, but it also was fitting for the scene.
Yeah. Well, and to add to it, all the while, she comes across the hermit crab people, and they speak a totally different language that she does not understand, but she says Ezra Bridger, and they kind of perk up like Ezra. So she just follows them basically on a whim and a prayer. But all the while, Balin and Shin Hati are hot on her trail to basically kill her as soon as she finds Ezra, and probably kill Ezra as well.
Yeah. And, we were basically left at the episode with them having found each other now, and trying to figure out how they're gonna get back off this planet, and we're back to Thrawn, and the Night Sisters stating that they can feel that Ahsoka is on her way.
Mm-hmm.
And so Thrawn asks him, well, I think I'm going to need some more of your dark magic. So that's how episode 6 left us. And we are all here waiting patiently for episode 7, because I'm interested to see what the dark magic is he needs now. And I hope we get some backstory and confirmation on what other dark magic he's used already.
Yeah.
So, which again, it may be his fleet of troopers.
Another thing that I noticed too was there was an exchange of cargo when the ship, docked into the top of that cliff or whatever. That all of the troops were offloading a bunch of cargo off of the ship.
Yeah.
I'm curious because there was no mention of an exchange that they were making for, arriving there.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what that cargo could be. And
don't forget that Thrawn had ordered for those whales to be shot down as they enter.
Because he knew that Ahsoka knew to use the whales as transport to get to that planet. So we have a couple things that we are looking forward to in these last 2 episodes. Number 1, what kind of fight scene are we about to incur? Because it's going to be epic. Number 2, we spoke of the Dathomir stuff. Is Darth Maul going to be a thing? What's going to come of that dark magic? And then above all else, if they happen to win the war, how in the hell are they getting off this planet? Because they figured out how to get there. What about leaving? So I'm excited. It is interesting because the Eye of Zion had enough basically hyperspace power that it could get there with the engines that it was equipped with. But Ahsoka's ship had to utilize the Star Whales to get this distance. It's gonna be interesting. I don't know if the Eye of Zion is gonna get hijacked and taken back home or what.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, this is going to be. I mean, this is a super good series so far, and
I know
we've discussed it a little bit away from this platform, but this could be very well be one of the best Star Wars series done so far. Put it right up there with any season of The Mandalorian. I put it there, Andor. So this has been a very good series so far, and look forward to more. That's for sure.
Yeah, I say this as, again, the newbie of the group. It took till about episode 3 or 4 to really understand, but being patient and just trying to pick up details along the way until then, still a good enough series that until you get to that 3rd or 4th episode and things click, there's plenty of stuff going on to keep you drawn into it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, once I'd seen some of the backstory of her flashbacks and put some things together, it was like the snap of a finger that everything clicked. And I almost want to rewatch the series again now, knowing what I know now and seeing what else I can pick up.
Yeah, I'll definitely be going the route that Justin has and taking a look at Rebels and then go back and watch the series again.
Yeah.
Just to see how the dots connect, differently.
Rebels, I promise you, the first 2 seasons, I was shocked how much it's tying in.
Yeah.
And
this is making me
several questions.
This is making me want to go pick up on the Clone Wars and stuff now too, because I'm trying to get all of this origin story, and I never thought I'd say it, but I'm hooked now. I'm ready.
It's cool. It is cool.
The Clone Wars is very interesting because of the clones. They went through Order 66, where they flipped the script on everything, and no one saw it coming other than the dark side. So anything post clones, everyone's skeptical of trusting a clone. So then you got the spawn also of the Bad Batch. I love that show. If you've never watched it, it is so good. But that's why this is such an interesting time frame and era of Star Wars, because they wholly trusted the clones at one point, and now it's do I really trust them, or are they going to betray us again? And it's just, it adds fuel to the fire with the Empire, and they're trying to regain their power across the galaxy, and the Jedi are coming out of hiding slowly. It's such a good story.
Yeah, and we'll be back to recap in another session, our last session, as soon as episode 8, part 8 premieres. Then we will be back to discuss it in a couple weeks and really just give our takes on how this series has gone so far and where we think it's going to go next. So stay tuned for that. If you like this type of discussion, and you want to see more, you want to see some other discussions, this is discussion that we've kind of built around for fans of the show that may not be super in touch with the extreme backgrounds of Star Wars, right? You may not know everything that's happening, but this is just a fun way for us to discuss things from our different perspectives and have some fun with it and interact with a series. And so if there's any other series that you want to see us do this with, please let us know. Leave a comment. We would love to do this more. We plan to do this type of discussion using this platform for these type of discussions. And if you like to hear other types of discussions, especially discussions built around Walt Disney World, then check out our podcast if you haven't done so. Off the Monorails. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it, we're there. Search Off the Monorails, and it's a fun podcast that we give you an adult perspective of going to Disney World and saving money, trip planning, crazy stories, all of it. So we would love you to go check out the podcast if you haven't done so already. Also, go check out offthemonorails.com. Again, you can find our Patreon information there, but you can also find a blog that's got a bunch of tips and tricks and articles about visiting Disney World and things like that. We've got a shop there, so if you want to support the show, it's a great way to do so. Get some really cool OTM swag, things built around the parks, and things like that. So definitely go check out hats, shirts, etc., all over the place. And make sure you follow us on all of our socials at Off the Monorails. We're the same across everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, Threads.
You name it.
You name it, we're there at Off the Monorails. We'd appreciate the follow. We appreciate you guys checking in on us and watching this. And again, this is a special premiere session for our patrons, and we will have access to the public in about a week's time later after this premiering. So, guys, I enjoyed this. I am thoroughly enjoying watching the series and then having a place to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just waiting for these last 2 episodes to get to the public so we can wrap this thing up and give our thoughts on it as a whole. I can't wait.
Yeah, same. I've been enjoying catching up with this series, and then some of the other supporting series that have been out there that's part of the canon. It's been really nice to dive deeper into it and see how it all connects and falls into place, and I can't wait to see how they finish up with Ahsoka, because we're in for a real treat and a Dave Filoni special home run.
Yeah, I think so. Well, that'll do it. We'll be back in a couple weeks with that. Until then, make sure you go check out the podcast. Make sure you check out us on Instagram, all the other socials. If you want to interact with us there, please do so. And we'll catch you there. I'm Jordan.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is Off the Monorails.